Welcome to the channel, where the world unfolds one story at a time. From the hidden forces shaping global politics to the breakthroughs transforming science, technology, and space, we break down complex ideas into stories that are clear, engaging, and thought-provoking. Here, history connects with today's headlines, and the biggest events in our world become stories you can truly understand. So if you're curious about the world and the forces shaping our future, you're in the right place, and buckle up. In 1920, thousands of people lined up outside a small office in Boston. They weren't protesting, they were begging a man to take their money. That man promised something almost impossible: 50% profit in just 45 days. And strangely enough, at first, he actually paid people. Investors became rich overnight. Newspapers called him a financial genius, but behind the scenes, there was no investment, no secret business, no global network, just one man moving money from one pocket to another. His name was Charles Ponzi. And his scam became so infamous that today, every financial fraud like it carries his name: the Ponzi scheme. This is the unbelievable true story of Charles Ponzi, the man who fooled thousands, stole millions, and created one of the most infamous financial scams in history. A story about greed, ambition, and the dangerous promise of getting rich quickly. Because the Ponzi scheme didn't just destroy fortunes, it exposed something much deeper: how easily people can believe in a dream that's too good to be true. Charles Ponzi was born in Italy in 1882. His family wasn't poor. In fact, generations before him had been successful merchants and respected officials. But by the time Ponzi was growing up, that wealth was gone, and the fall in status haunted him. He believed something had been taken from him, something he deserved. From a young age, Ponzi didn't just want money. He wanted luxury. He wanted admiration. He wanted to live like the elite. But instead of working toward it, he tried to look wealthy first. When he inherited a small amount of money as a teenager, he used it to attend college. But there was one problem. Ponzi barely studied. Instead, he spent his inheritance on expensive suits, fancy restaurants, theater tickets, and gambling nights with rich friends. For a while, he managed to maintain the illusion. But eventually, the money ran out. And with no degree and no career prospects, his dream collapsed. In 1903, Ponzi made a decision that would change his life. He sailed to the United States. Like millions of immigrants at the time, he believed America was the land where anyone could become rich. But reality hit him hard. Ponzi bounced from job to job: waiter, dishwasher, factory worker, salesman, clerk. None of them lasted long. Sometimes he quit because he hated the work. Other times he was fired for trying to cheat customers. Many nights he had no money for food. He slept in parks. And the life he once imagined, luxury, wealth, admiration, felt further away than ever. But Ponzi refused to give up on his dream. If he couldn't get rich, honestly, he would find another way. In 1907, Ponzi moved to Montreal, Canada. There he found work at a bank serving Italian immigrants. The bank promised depositors unusually high interest rates. At first, the business seemed successful, but soon the truth became clear. The bank wasn't generating real profits. Instead, it was using money from new customers to pay older customers. A classic fraud. Eventually, the owner fled the country with the remaining funds. But the lesson stayed with Ponzi, because he had just witnessed something powerful: a system where money didn't need to be earned, only moved around. Years later, Ponzi found himself back in Boston, struggling again, trying one business idea after another. None of them worked. Then one day, in 1919, a strange letter arrived from Spain. Inside the envelope was something called an international reply coupon. These coupons were used for international mail. They could be exchanged for postage stamps in different countries. And suddenly, Ponzi had an idea. Because currency values were different around the world, if he bought coupons cheaply in one country and exchanged them for stamps in another, he could theoretically make a small profit. This strategy is known as arbitrage. On paper, it sounded brilliant. But there was one huge problem. The profits were tiny. Shipping costs would erase any real gain. and there simply weren't enough coupons in existence to make serious money. For most people, this would mean the idea was dead. But Ponzi saw something else. He realized the story sounded convincing, and that was all he needed. In early 1920, Ponzi launched a company called the Securities Exchange Company. He began telling investors he had discovered a secret international arbitrage opportunity using postal coupons. Then he made an unbelievable promise: 50% profit in 45 days, or 100% profit in 90 days. It sounded impossible, and financially educated investors immediately stayed away. But Ponzi wasn't targeting experts. He targeted ordinary people, workers, immigrants, families struggling to get ahead, people desperate for opportunity. At first, only a handful invested. But when the first investors received their profits, word spread rapidly. Soon, crowds gathered outside Ponzi's office. People begged him to take their money. Within months, Ponzi was collecting hundreds of thousands of dollars per day. But there was one fatal flaw. There were no investments, no postal coupon operation, no international network. The entire system worked only because new investors paid the old ones. A classic Ponzi scheme. The moment new investors stopped coming, the entire structure would collapse. And eventually, journalists began asking questions. Financial experts ran the numbers. The results were shocking. To generate the profits Ponzi promised, he would need to buy more postal coupons than existed in the entire world. The truth was undeniable. In 1920, newspapers exposed the fraud. Investigations began. Investors panicked. The crowds outside his office disappeared overnight, and the empire collapsed. Ponzi was arrested and charged with fraud. Thousands of people lost their life savings. Banks failed. Families were ruined, all because of a dream that never existed. Ponzi eventually pleaded guilty and went to prison. But surprisingly, even after serving time, he didn't stop scamming. He later tried another fraudulent investment scheme involving worthless land in Florida. That failed too. Eventually, he was arrested again and deported. The man who once controlled millions spent his final years in poverty. In 1949, Charles Ponzi died in a charity hospital in Brazil. He was buried in a simple grave, almost forgotten, except for one thing: his name. More than a century later, the Ponzi scheme still exists. From Bernie Madoff's billion-dollar fraud to modern cryptocurrency scams, the strategy remains exactly the same. Promise impossible returns, pay early investors using new money, and hope the illusion lasts long enough. Charles Ponzi didn't invent the scam, but he perfected it, and his story reveals a timeless truth about money. The most dangerous investment isn't a bad business. It's a promise that sounds too good to question. Because when easy money appears, even the smartest people sometimes stop asking the most important question: where is the profit actually coming from?